My name is Saumyajit Roy, and I'm here today not as a CEO or a co-founder of Emoha Eldercare, but I'm here as a son. I'm here as a son, like millions of sons and daughters in India, and several thousands of them who work abroad, who want to do the best that we can for our parents. Huge honor and privilege for me to present to you India's first Elders First Festival. And it's a festival dedicated to really the fantastic elders of this nation. Each one of us will feel very special that we were part of a movement which made some fundamental changes in the way we look at our elders. And that small change is what we are calling as ElderHour. To inaugurate this festival, to inaugurate Emoha's Elders First Festival. So I have with me somebody who needs no introduction, Mr Arjun Malhotra. And all of you know him as the co-founder of HCL. And today it's a super special feeling not just to have Arjun, but also to have his two wonderful children, Shiven and Poorva. Shiven, Poorva, thank you so much for joining us, for taking time out today. So, one of the things that we noticed is the beautiful bond that all of you share. The bond between Arjun, yourself, and Poorva, and Shiven, and the family. So I want to ask this question to Arjun, and just to kind of start the conversation, that, we always say that behind every successful man, there is a woman, or behind a successful woman, there is a man. But it's also true at Emoha, we believe that behind a successful person, there is some elder. Who were these elders in your life?
So technically, I was born post-independence. And so when I grew up in Calcutta, my mother was a medical doctor from Calcutta Medical College. She was working, my dad was in the army, they were working. So I spent a lot of my initial time as a child and, coming back from school with my maternal grandparents. And my grandfather was a fairly well-known scientist. And I basically learned a lot from him. I mean, he used to go for a walk around Victoria Memorial in the morning. I used to hold his finger and walk with him. And while he'd be discussing, I guess, scientific stuff or whatever he was talking to his colleagues, his friends, he would give me my 2 plus 3, 5 plus 8, So I learned my mental math when I was a kid. So when I went to kindergarten and the teacher would write the sum on the board and draw the 2 lines, I would give her the answer. What I really learned from him was, with his busy schedule, he always had time for me when I was a child. What you learn is, your parents, your grandparents, and from your teachers.
That's so nice, Arjun. And I think, in everything that you say, I see so much of your mentioning your grandparents, your mom, your dad, spending time with grandchildren. How is that transitioning, Poorva? How do you see that transitioning from the grandchild of yesteryear to the grandparent now?
It's interesting. When I was growing up, Papa used to be traveling a lot. And though growing up, I never thought it was strange because that was the only life I knew. But as I grew a little older, I realized that that's not how everyone's parents are, right? Papa used to travel for work maybe 20 days in the month. We would see him very little. Of course, our interactions were very meaningful, but in terms of time, it was not that much for both Shiven and me. But I see Papa with my children, and it's very different.
Right.
But I think it's important to spend time. I think time is the key, because you need to find time to interact and grow together and learn together. We as younger people, especially this generation, they're growing up with a screen in front of them. So there's, kind of a shield between us and people. My grandparents, my parents didn't grow up like that. I think their understanding of the world is different and in some ways deeper, maybe.
So I'll add one thing to what Poorva said, which is just as an anecdote. When my nephew was born, one day Dad actually was back from work before 5 p.m. So I actually for a second thought he was sick, but he was home to spend time with me, which is very nice. Wow. Very nice to see. I mean, I joked with him a little bit at the door but before I let him into the house, I was there at that time in the US, and but it was really amazing to see. As Poorva said, that Papa was traveling for work when we were young. My Nana used to say that when someone grows as tall as you, or their foot size becomes as big as yours, they become your friends. And I happened to get a growth spurt when I was very young. Grew, so he, at a very young age, actually imparted knowledge to me in a way like a friend, someone like a colleague, a friend, things that I still actually use when I look back and see what he had said.
Tell us something more about how your parents and your grandparents played an influence while you took some dramatic steps in the early days.
So no one in the family had ever done quote unquote business, if I use that term. Everyone was either teacher, doctor, scientist, whatever. They came from that background. So initially, my parents were always supportive. They always said, if that's what you want to do, please go ahead. What my grandmother did was, she offered us her Barsati in Golf Links, where she lived, to open our office. And that's where we started. And we grew to a point where, we used to roll up her bedrooms and make them offices. And she would act like a receptionist. So if someone came to visit and your earlier meeting was still going on, she would have them sit in the drawing room, talk to them, give them tea or whatever. And in fact, I feel bad that when we shifted our office, she mentally deteriorated very quickly after that. And I think I learned from there is that, look, as long as you keep busy, you'll stay young and you'll stay healthy, right? Physically and mentally. And so I've decided I'm not going to retire. And, my motivation is, I feel I've been asked this a number of times. And so I feel as long as I can create jobs in India, I think I have a duty. And so I will keep doing that. And I don't think I can see myself retiring. I also believe a lot of people I meet don't use their common sense. And I think that's probably the most important ingredient of trying to, just look at anything you do and see how you can improve. So that's part of life. I think what kids have to do today is just try and spend as much time as they can with their parents. If they can't physically go and spend the time, try and at least talk to them once or twice a day.
On that note, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate Arjun, Shiven, Poorva for really opening up. It's always, we always see the co-founder of HCL, but behind the co-founder of HCL is this absolutely wonderful human being. But do share with elders, what keeps you energized and active and all the time doing so much new interesting things, every day.
It's his amazing family. That's what it is. That's the secret. Nothing else. That's it.